Welcome to the American Royal, situated in the historic West Bottoms of Kansas City in the heart of what used to be the Kansas City stockyards, probably dating from post-Civil War up through the late 80s, early 90s. The area we're standing in today was home for about 175,000 head of livestock. It's now, and it's always has been, the home to the American Royal, but today we have office buildings here, parking lots, Kemper Arena, when 50 years ago this would have all been cattle pens. Well, the stockyards, of course, were just huge. It was a whole labyrinth of pens for the major species. I think even goats and hogs is a practical matter, but certainly for cattle of all types. Cattle pens holding and getting ready to ship cattle over the river into Kansas, where the Big Five packers were located. The packers in that era, the heyday of all of this was in the 1950, pre-1950 era, and they employed about 25,000 people just in the packing industry itself. So the cattle industry and the Kansas City stockyards in particular were a huge economic engine for this part of the country, Kansas City in particular. The stockyards are what made Kansas City, really. With the advent of the Hannibal Bridge, post-Civil War, on up until the world started changing in the 1980s, 1990s, this was the epicenter of all things Kansas City and livestock. The American Royal Complex, where we're standing right now, was built in 1992, and there was an older building here before that had about a 70-year run, and many people think of as kind of an iconic American Royal building. It was falling apart and taken down in the early 90s and replaced with this building in 1992. At the American Royal, we trace our history back to 1899 with the first cattle show down here. And we've changed over time, as everything has changed over time. We're now in our 114th year. Cattle shows are still a very important part of what we do during our season. And our season runs for about 10 weeks, more or less from the 1st of September through Thanksgiving. Over that time, we have a world-class livestock show. We do a series of 5 horse shows, rodeo, parade, business lunch, a steak tasting competition. But what we're mostly known for in the community today, in 2013, is our BBQ Contest. This is home of the World Series of Barbecue. And during the first weekend of October, we'll welcome about 70,000 people down here over that weekend. Most of them come on Friday. To be part of the largest barbecue competition in the world. We'll have about 545 teams here competing. It's not really a public sampling opportunity, it's a competition. And this is where the best of the barbecue world come, and it's a big deal. Modern days, I like to, when we think in terms of our history and our legacy in the livestock industry, I tell people, think about coming down that bridge off the bluffs down into the West Bottoms of Kansas City, and in the early 1900s. Think of what the aroma must have been like to come down to the home of cattle pens that hold 175,000 people. Now in 2013, think of the other end of the food chain when we have 70,000 people down here for a barbecue weekend in early October. It's still the food system, but it's an entirely different aroma, entirely different end of the food system, but we celebrate food and agriculture down here.